recognized.
Excellent. All right. Good evening. I would like to call the March 17th, 2020 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Can we all please stand for the pledge?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, I do have a couple of announcements tonight. First and foremost, being an Irishman, happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. Second of all, I know there's a lot of things that are on the news and a lot of information that's circulating around Facebook as it pertains to the COVID-19. The town has been doing a good job of keeping things up to date on the town website. So if there's questions or concerns or anybody that hasn't had a chance to do it, direct yourself to the Town of Douglas website, and you'll see ample information and building closures and all the things as they become pertinent to the town. So I'm done with that. Is there anybody here for anything not currently listed on our agenda? Seeing as none, we'll go right into the poll petition hearing, 290-47654 for Walnut Street. And Massachusetts Electric and Verizon New England, Inc. are requesting permission to relocate poles, wires, cables, and fixtures, including anchors, guys, and other such necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way or ways, which would be Walnut Street. They're installing 5 poles on Walnut Street, P12-25, P18-50, P23-50, 24-50, and 27-50. And then they will be relocating 10 poles on Walnut Street, P12-50, 13, 13-50, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, 30, and 31.
Mr. Parent from National Grid will not be at your meeting. I did have this reviewed by all the other boards, and the only thing that was requested from Highway Superintendent John Furno is to have the new poles, any new poles, located at least 3 feet from the edge of the pavement. If you remember, we had a whole bunch of poll petitions come in back in December. This was one of them that needed to go before Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
They did go before Conservation Commission, and Conservation Commission has no issues.
Even with the 3-foot setback that John is asking for? Okay. So we would probably want to reflect that in our approval.
I would move that we approve the poll petition.
Excuse me, we're in public hearing, so we need to...
Just cool those jets.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce.
You're welcome, Mr. Cortez.
Point of order.
So I don't know if there's anybody here for the poll.
Are there any abutters or anything here in regards to the poll petition? Seeing as none.
I move that we close the public hearing.
I will second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
All right, David.
Now,
Sure now. Okay. I move that we adopt the poll petition with the added condition that the poles be placed at least 3 feet from the edge of the pavement.
Second.
motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. That would bring us to the Historical Society update and request for involvement.
I have on your agenda Shirley Cooney would be here, but Rich Preston is here instead.
Okay. Come on up, Rich.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me some time on your agenda. Try not to take up too much of your time. I'm Richard Preston. I'm here representing the Douglas Historic Society. Mr. Chairman, if you'll indulge me, I have some written comments, very brief, and then we can open up comment and discussion if you'd like. So I wrote this mostly in plural because others are going to be here with me, so now I have to adapt as I go. Singular. So my purpose in meeting with you this evening in part is part of a greater outreach effort to improve the visibility, speaking of visibility, effort to improve the visibility of the Yin store, which we own and operate. Expand our membership in the Historical Society and to inform the public of our efforts to repair and improve the Yin store through state and corporate grants and through public donations. The store, located in our town center, is a time capsule of life as it was in a rural community a century and a half ago, as viewed through a general store, serving our community in the valley beyond. Our mission as a historical society is to share and interpret this resource through tours and both membership and community events we hold throughout the year. To better enhance this resource, we are embarking on a major fundraising program to make improvements to the building, including handicap accessibility, including a ramp and a handicap bathroom, front porch repairs, renovation of the second floor for use by the society, and a live-in caretaker in an effort to generate rental income, and construction of both a gallery for rotating historic displays and a climatized storage area in which to store the collection. So what can the community do to help? Come visit our store through private or public tours. Join the Historic Society, whose annual dues and volunteer efforts are what sustain the museum. And last but not least, donate. Always donate. We invite the board and the public to visit our website at douglashistoricalsociety.org for more information. So I would like, as I said, we're trying to increase our visibility as an entity. We're a 501c3 corporation, so we're going to be actively seeking monies, probably in excess of $50,000, but we think this is a jewel in the town and we want to preserve it. We're simply custodians. Others have done this before us. The Douglas Historic Society was incorporated over 50 years ago, and the building is on the National Register of Historic Places. So I'd like to offer an invitation to the board collectively and individually. I'd be glad to give you a private tour. I know many of you, if not all of you, have been in there, but we also offer a behind-the-scenes tour, which is even more interesting. So the offer's on the table if you choose to accept it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Rich, when are public tours?
I'm sorry?
When are public tours offered
We
traditionally?
establish those in the good weather, say May through September. On Saturdays, we have docents, very well-trained, informed docents. So we're hoping to start those in the spring every Saturday. But we will accommodate private tours too, most any time.
Okay.
So with that, I have some swell prizes and information for you.
Steve likes surprises.
I like prizes.
These are calendars we had made and sold in the store. There was a photograph,
Thank you.
a competition hosted by the Blackstone Valley Heritage Corridor Commission. It would leave you out, Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that'd be a bad move. Suzanne would hold a grudge.
No, you take care of Suzanne.
See, he likes me.
Anyone else want a calendar, chief? Come on.
Let's see your favorite.
Department heads.
Mike Hughes is.
And she just went on public record saying that Mike Hughes is her favorite.
I said, when anybody asks me, I'm going to.
So we're not looking for any board action, of course. We're a private entity. We're not looking for public dollars, but we just want to raise our public persona. So we thought this is one of the stops.
Excellent. I like the pictures in the
I
calendar.
love the photos.
Thank you. Yeah, they're pretty, I don't know if they're all professional photographers. Some are. They make the store look better than it is, really, but we'll take it.
I had one suggestion, is that take advantage of modern technology and have some people dressed up in period costumes and broadcast it to schools in the area where they could interact with the people and talk what it was like to be shopping in 1890 or whatever particular year, and outreach beyond the physical limits of the store.
Sure. That's actually a good idea.
Mr. Hughes could actually tell you what shopping was like in 1890.
You said that publicly.
Well, it was in response to trying to bring your ego back down after hearing that you're Suzanne's favorite.
I thank you for your indulgence. And if you have
Thank
any
you.
questions.
Oh, I do, actually. How is the facility holding up?
It's holding up well. Like most old buildings, I own an old house. There's always a lot you've done, and there's always a lot to do.
Oh, yeah.
So structurally, it's good. The roof is good, the windows are good. We had some water damage in the porch, so one of the pilasters was sinking. We need to take care of that. The second floor hasn't been occupied since the Jenks sisters lived there in the early 70s. It's in really tough shape. Structurally, it's okay, but cosmetically, it's in tough shape. And in terms of infrastructure, water, electrical, it all has to be redone, gutted and redone, if you will. So our thought was it would be win-win for us. We renovate the second floor. We can use part of it for meetings for the society, and we'd rent out the other part at a discount to an in-house living caretaker. Historic New England, who owns a lot of historic properties throughout New England, does that all the time. That way you have someone living on the property, they do certain basic things for you, even give tours. You get insurance credits because someone's actually living in the building, and if something happens, someone will be on site. And we're looking to generate money other than donations, regular income, make the building work for us. So we'd like to get some rent also.
It would be nice to see a lot more use out of it. It is a beautiful old building.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, if you look on the handout there, we have some events coming up. That's only half of them. We're going to grow our events calendar and try to get the public in.
Excellent.
I had donated some Douglas axes, and I intend to donate some more, just looking to see if there's an area that you can have for a presentation area to, mount them on the wall, or,
Hal, if you give them, we'll show them.
okay, there's a couple there already that
Donated by Hal Dave.
I don't know, just have some purpose beyond me.
Yeah, those are few and far between the
Yeah.
original axes.
Could you continue sending that event list around?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I won't tolerate him picking on you, Hal. I'm not going to let him do that.
Well, he's senior by age, isn't he? Yeah,
So if ever you want to contact me, Suzanne has my number, as always. And you can go to our website, and they're pretty responsive if you email them. There's also a donate button, too,
Thank you.
for your donating convenience.
Very good.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So we have a request for signage on town property from Dynamic Douglas and possible votes. How are you tonight, Donna?
How are you tonight?
Good.
So I sent Suzanne an email. I didn't know it was required until last year when someone had mentioned something to me about one of the signs that I had posted. So I'd like to have some lawn yard signs, the same signs that are posted that we had last year. The corners of where the flagpoles are placed on West Street and Mechanic Street. And then, if possible, at the Municipal Center, and then at the schools. I'd like a banner size, which is 4 by 24, placed on the Common, the VFW, and Soldiers Field.
I don't see any issues with it.
Well, the West Street location, I imagine, that's the square,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the sacred area, is it not?
Yeah, but you usually end up seeing somebody with a vote for sign at any given point in time there when we have local elections.
I don't know. If you do, I think the highway department will pull those.
That's Ernie's Sunday morning job.
Yeah.
Just to pull the signs?
Well, there's a bylaw about
Oh, the use of that.
on the veteran squares and memorial squares.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ernie really takes offense to that. That's his Sunday morning
Okay.
after church right around the town. And there's a pile at the highway department. Realtors come get them, whoever leaves their signs.
Okay.
You know where to pick them up for the most part.
So, but if you did, instead of doing there, I think Mr. Tassino owns the field on the right-hand side, right? On the West Street,
I believe so.
so you may
He
want
doesn't
to,
mind if I put something over there,
So-
because he donates.
yeah, in lieu of there, put it over on, like if you're going to put a sign, put it over on Lou's area.
That's fine.
The VFW one, I don't have any issues with.
No, I think
So,
that's
other than-
fine.
Other than the flagpole sites then. But I'm sure that there's private landowners that allow you to get it, so it's at least close.
Okay.
If
Is it
that-
all right to put it on the Common, too?
Where the gazebo is, I don't see any issues. Does that fall under the same bylaw?
We have a committee. They're not elected, but they take care of the Common. I would reach out to them. It's Betty Ann
Yeah.
McCollum.
Okay.
I'll send you her contact information, her and
Tina Porter.
Tina Porter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
And the schools, I would think that she would have to get permission from the schools.
okay,
We don't have jurisdiction over the school property.
okay.
So would you, Brett, you're in the audience, would you want to get an audience with the school committee for that?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
So if you send us, email the request to me, and we'll be on the agenda in the future. And shouldn't be a
okay.
problem.
All right, perfect, thank you, Bert. Okay. Do you need a vote from you now?
Yeah.
We didn't do anything.
Well, we're giving her permission to use everything but the flagpole signs and the
Right.
school property.
Yeah,
All right, so moved.
second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Don.
Donna, just if you can, connect with the Recreation Commission as to the layout of how you envision this year's event to go and where cars are going to go and what have you. We can't have a repeat of last year. Cool. Thank you.
All right.
Should be a resolution that selectmen don't have to go in the dunking tank again.
Missed that.
You hated that.
We could have added that, yeah.
Plenty of time.
You can always say no.
All right. Or just schedule your vacation that week.
Right.
Second Amendment Sanctuary Town, Shirley Police Department, Jared Yanis. And
Good evening, everybody.
good evening.
Evening.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. So I'm going to use my notepad here, if it's okay with you. So I'll be short, I'll be quick. I don't know if you want me to read the resolution or if you have a rough draft that I had submitted earlier.
I believe I got a rough, we do, right?
Do you have one? 'Cause I'm-
We haven't seen the resolution. We have some background information.
Okay,
Yeah,
I can
just wanted to-
read it if you'd like. Won't take long.
I didn't receive a resolution.
Okay. We can rectify that. So what I'm hoping to do is to have the board consider a Second Amendment sanctuary here in the town of Douglas. I'll read it real quick, and then I'll give you some of the reasons behind my thought process here. So what I'm hoping it would say, or something very similar, is whereas the people of Douglas, Massachusetts were empowered by their creator with certain natural rights, among them the rights of self-defense and the right to resist a tyrannical government, and these rights are codified in the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution and Article 17 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights. And the aforesaid amendment and article restrain the government from infringing upon the people's right to keep and bear arms. And the United States Supreme Court has ruled that firearm possession is an American individual right, unconnected to any militia existence or service. And the United States Supreme Court has further ruled that firearms in common usage for lawful purposes may not be banned by government. And the United States Supreme Court has also ruled that laws which are counter to the constitutional protections are void and of no effect. And the people of Douglas, Massachusetts regularly exercise their right to keep and bear arms for a number of legitimate purposes. And then it shall be the policy, if approved obviously, of the town of Douglas that our community shall be a sanctuary for those who wish to exercise their right to keep and bear arms, free from the interference of government and the town, and its agents and its employees shall not support or enforce any laws which offend the rights enumerated above, nor support any efforts by others who attempt to do so. With that said, just a little bit of background. As of 10 days ago, on March 6, 2020, there were 1,006 counties, cities, and towns here in the U.S. that have passed Second Amendment sanctuary ordinances, resolutions, or declarations in 34 separate states. Illinois, Colorado, New Mexico, Washington, Nevada, and more recently Virginia have passed them in a vast majority of their counties. This number does not include Alaska, Idaho, Kansas, and Wyoming, all of which have similar state-level protections. Second Amendment sanctuaries are an effective way to send a message to both state and federal representatives that their citizens will not support those who violate their rights and attempt to dismantle the Second Amendment. When I started my police career 23 years ago, I took an oath to protect and defend the United States Constitution. I live by that oath, and I strongly value our individual liberties. For this reason, I support the adoption of a Second Amendment sanctuary as a method of safeguarding our rights. I also believe this is an excellent opportunity for the elected leadership in the town of Douglas to stand for our rights and show our citizens that this town will always value our rights, all of them. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions or concerns, I'd be more than welcome to address those. While I'm not the end-all in the wall, I'll do my best.
So I did want to get some feedback from our police chief on his thoughts and theories around it.
I haven't seen the documentation, and frankly, I don't know enough about it. I don't know what he's asking me, so.
So, I mean, the biggest thing that I'd want to avoid is anything that would impair our chief from being able to do his job.
Right.
I wouldn't want to put anything that would be contradictory or put our police department in a rough spot.
This is, I heard the word policy, right? This is drafted as a policy.
Right.
It's not an ordinance.
Correct.
And I follow this issue somewhat myself, but I think your knowledge is far greater than mine is. Would you say 1,000 counties or cities and towns across the
1,006
U.S.?
as of right now.
Now, some of them are ordinances, right?
Yes, sir.
So those are the equivalent of laws,
Yeah, some of them have gone that far.
Right.
The rest of them are intermediate.
not what you're looking to do here, right?
No.
This is a policy statement. Okay.
How many towns in Massachusetts have adopted the policy?
As far as I know, we'd be the first.
You're a Douglas resident?
Yes, sir.
Are you an NRA member?
Yes, sir. And Gun Owners of America and Second Amendment Foundation, vast majority of them.
I think we should get some feedback from the police chief and town council before we
Yeah,
take any action.
Get a draft put together as to what we'd want to have lettering, or would it pretty much be to the letter of what?
Would you be open to any alterations if the board felt that they were necessary? I mean, the only thing we don't have in the packet here is a copy of it.
Yeah, sure.
I'm certainly in favor of it. I can't say that emphatically enough.
Well, I'm also, I'm in favor of it, but like I said, under the proviso that it doesn't hinder, we make sure that it's written and crafted as which, that it doesn't hinder our local authorities from being able to do what the law tells them that they have to do.
If I may, sir?
Yeah.
I'm a police officer. I'm
Yeah.
a sergeant in Town-Shirley. I'm not looking to help law enforcement in any way.
Yep.
What I am looking to do is, especially in the times we're facing right now, to let the residents of our town know that we value their rights and we won't infringe upon them off of any whim or anything like that, because there are certain levels of scrutiny that should be applied to civil rights.
Yeah, I agree.
How many towns have you presented this to?
I only live here, sir.
Okay, how many is the organization presented to?
I believe Gun Owners of America has,
In Massachusetts, I'm interested.
I don't know if anybody has, to be honest with you.
I don't have a problem being a first. I can say
I
that.
certainly don't, no, not at all.
If I could ask if you could get a copy of that to the town administrator, also send it over to our police chief.
Yeah, sure.
And then we'll readdress this at our next meeting,
Yeah, we can do that.
giving people ample
Is that-
time to review it.
Yeah.
Just
and
a
to-
reminder that you have a policy where you do 3 readings of policies.
Well, yeah.
Okay, I'm just reminding you.
Is this the first reading?
I know you wouldn't have
I was
to,
This
just
is
going to
not
ask that
the first
question.
reading.
No.
No.
they would have to agree to embrace it, and then there'd be 3 readings. As I,
You have to actually look at a document first, yeah.
This is why Cincinnati's my favorite.
So I don't know.
oh, wow.
You may not leave with a policy today, but I think after hearing a couple, at least selectmen, you'll leave with the knowledge that the board is at least in the majority in relation to what it is you're looking to do. It's a fundamental freedom. It's probably America's first freedom, and I'm proud to stand and support it.
Thank you, sir, and I can guarantee you there are a lot of people in this town that are happy to hear that.
Yeah. Well said, Tim.
Thank you.
You were practicing that.
No, actually,
All
it
right.
wasn't. It just starts to roll off my tongue. I keep going, but I won't.
Yeah, if you could just get a copy to the police chief, to our town administrator, you'll get it across to the rest of the board, and just make sure that they have an opportunity to review it, and if there's any tweaking that needs to be done, then
Right.
I'm sure we could find a way around that.
We going back on the agenda. When's our next meeting?
7th.
The 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be here. I'm only a
Excellent.
quarter mile away.
Okay.
All right,
Yes, I
gentlemen.
know.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jared.
All right, so now comes the new fun one. The open meeting law, remote participation, and possible votes. And I do have, everybody has in their packet, the order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, 30A and 20, Do you want me to read that off for the record for everybody as to what came from the governor? So.
I think a summary would probably be.
Only if you read the regulation, too.
You gotta be
Take
like
you
that.
about 14 days.
I was going to say, we're going to
How
be
many
here
times
a
have I
while.
had your back, Alan? Now you gotta turn on me.
Mr. Chairman, we are living through unprecedented times. I would like to see that.
Yeah, so long and short of it, it sounds like it's relaxing the policy to a certain extent, in order to make it so, in light of a health epidemic that's going on, and making the rules a little bit less stringent, but it doesn't mean that we have to follow it to the letter of how he's written it out. Is that a good summation, Matt?
Pretty much. This isn't a policy, this is a statutory framework
Yes.
that establishes transparency and access to government processes. Remote participation is already allowed in a limited form under the Open Meetings Act. A group of members of a public body, less than a quorum, may participate remotely, provided there's a quorum at the physical location site, and the town in question has adopted remote participation as an allowed policy. Douglas has not done that. So at the moment, you may always lawfully have a phone at the table for the town administrator, or for Suzanne, or for a public safety chief, whose input you want to have on an issue but can't be physically present. You can have that on the phone, because you are the deliberative body, and that doesn't change the public's participation. You're getting feedback, and you're deliberating in open session, and the public can comment on the issue. The current situation with COVID-19 and all of the activities we're going through to try to limit its spread led the governor to, I believe under his emergency powers under the state constitution, by virtue of declaring a state of emergency, to allow bodies to meet without anybody physically present. And everybody would still have to try their best to guarantee real-time discussion and real-time public access, certainly for public hearings, and at least optionally for public meetings. Under the premise that the public would be prohibited from access to public meetings because the buildings where those meetings occur would be closed. That's a very real practical issue that we'll have to work our way through. If we close this building to the public because we don't want groups of 10 or groups of greater than 25 to be able to meet, then we've basically said either we won't have those meetings at all and the business before those boards wouldn't occur, or we'd be violating the policy around group activities. So there's this conundrum that has arisen. I personally think the one way to turn the circle into a square here is that the governor's issued orders are permissive. It's a level to which you can go if you choose, but you can modify that for your local application in a way that's satisfactory to you and still try to get all these pieces to come together. If the notion is that you want real-time public access so that people can listen to what's going on and exercise the same level of rights they would have if we had had this as a public meeting in a building. I mean, you don't necessarily always ask the public to speak. You have citizens forum up front. You may or may not allow, I've seen you do it both ways. Mostly it seems like you allow the public to speak on agenda items as they arise, if they ask to be recognized. You don't have to do that, really. Would the technology platform allow for everybody to be visible and for every member of the public that wants to see it in live, real time to see it and be able to participate? Technology's made that possible. We have to see that demonstrated to believe it, right? So, but there are more than one vendor out there that says that they can do this, that they can take a feed from your phone and put it in one central location so the five of you can eyeball each other And then the public either signs on to a URL or dials in on a phone call, and they are also present in the meeting. My recommendation to you would be to not engage in remote meetings unless those criteria could be met. And the other one that I think would be important is that every member of an elected body should be the same. So you should all be able to see the dashboard that the chairman has to determine who's signaling that they want to speak and how is the chairman handling it, so that you could interact as a body over whether or not an additional person would be allowed to speak, or, no, now we're going to an executive session, we're going to dump everybody from the meeting and have a lawful executive session. Whether you do this or not, you still have emergency powers, so to call meetings on an emergency without a posted agenda. If the item is a significant threat to the public health and safety, you don't have to post an agenda, you just have to comply with the law to the greatest extent that you can. So if you have 24 hours notice, you should have a 24-hour posting. Operationally, the alternative to having the board have those ad hoc meetings or virtual meetings is to delegate the authority to members of the administration that you then hold accountable with transparency. I mean, the ideal answer is probably going to be a little bit of both. That you don't necessarily want to be here and sign every check for 2 cents because we had to send something by certified mail. And on the flip side, the two boards that really need to meet are the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Health, because they have legal authority they have to exercise during a public health emergency. Regardless, and to me, this is not a 2-week or 3-week thing. I haven't heard anybody in public life who's got a serious regulatory or authority role at the moment saying, oh yeah, don't worry about this, it's going to blow over in 2 weeks and everything's going to be back to normal. I think that people have stopped talking like that, and you hear longer figures put out there. So knowing that there are folks out there talking about 8 weeks or longer, we have to think about where will we be coming to close to the end of the fiscal year if we haven't had a Board of Selectmen meeting or we've had to violate whatever laws are in place or policies that are in place to get you all here.
I would say that the way that we should be looking at this is under the assumption that this will last as long here as it did in China. So you're looking December to March. So actually November to March, if you want to get really technical. So we could be in this for a long haul. It could be the end of May, early June before we start really seeing things lifted and easing up.
Seems to me it's a no-brainer to approve it. I mean, we've got to continue to function as a town and do our role, and
I would agree that we need to continue and do function, what Hal said. I don't think this is the way to do it. I think this is basically peeking inside of Pandora's box and not liking what we find there. If we already have the ability to call emergency meetings with a short notice, then I really don't see what this buys us. The ability to telecommute or teleattend, I don't think is really going to make anybody feel more confident in an emergency. I've read before, and I just took the opportunity to read again our governor's order in which he awards himself the power to suspend statute law. Seems like he's not the first elected official from Boston to do that. I'm not really sure of the positives of that, but it's done and it's accepted as fact at this point, so we all move on. I think if the situation were to get worse, we all hope it doesn't, we're all working towards it not getting worse, but if it does get worse, how much confidence are we putting out to the public if we can't even hold a regular open meeting where they can look at us?
I would.
Let me just finish by saying this, if we need to abide by, the governor's order or anybody else's order, because the federal government may weigh in on limiting people, I can understand that, but I don't think the meeting should be held solely online, and I don't want to open the door down the road to try to have future meetings. I mean, imagine the specter of a town meeting with several hundred people there, and even a fraction of them decides that they're going to attend electronically. technology is a wonderful thing, and I defer to your vastly superior knowledge on technology, but I just don't think it's the direction that we should be going in.
Well, I think it's one of those extenuating times, extenuating measures. And I wouldn't want to have to try and re-vote on this as a condition worsens, if it worsens, which we all hope that it doesn't. I would not be keen on doing town meeting this way.
Right.
But I would be supportive of Selectmen Board of Health in the interim, and at least having that option there without having to require another reconvene and saying, okay, certainly not making it permanent practice, but saying, we have the ability to do this if the situation unfurls to the point where we have to.
So would we institute some controls on it then, where we would only use this under certain circumstances, or would it be available for use really anytime the board chooses to use it, or a future board?
We could establish a criteria to it. It's our policy.
Could limit it
Yeah,
by
I mean,
time.
if you want a
too.
recommendation, I've been a little bit cursory. I would include school committee and the water commissioners.
Yeah.
Yes.
Two major accounts that are separate from the board's authority. You could certainly limit it to only to the duration of the governor's state of emergency on this topic. I mean, that could be the limiting.
Or a couple
That
of
would
months
certainly
away.
calm a lot of my objections to it.
Or even do it so it's a matter of, in the event of a state of emergency, making this an option, so that way further boards aren't burdened with it again.
I have a sneaking feeling that there may be a lot more states of emergency in the future. Not that I think anything's going to happen, but I think it is a way, certainly not in this town, for government to do things that they don't normally do. So I'd be more inclined to limit it to this particular state of emergency.
Because you know what will happen then is that because you set a precedent, each time it comes up, you would have, the board, regardless of who was sitting in those 5 chairs, would have a vote on the record, on its judgment, rather than using a tool that was set up for it by a prior board under a completely different set of circumstances.
Technologies can change at that point too, and you can
Right.
revisit it.
Well,
I'd like a time period, maybe 3 months or something like that. And
if you're going to,
revisit it again at the end of that period of time.
well, we don't know how long this is, or just put it to the duration of this particular.
But I think what Hal's saying, if we do that and it exceeds, say, 3
Yeah.
months,
You may
then
I think-
we may want to revisit the policy.
Okay. Well, I can say, to Tim's point on the technology side of it, it's already there. There's platforms out there that you could do a virtual town meeting and have up to 50 or 60,000 people log into it and participate with voting and everything else. So the technology is not a limitation. It's the school of thought with people resisting technology that's a limitation.
Is the cost a limitation?
No. The account, I don't want to advertise for my company because in essence I really shouldn't be, but there's a,
Then don't.
I was going to say that.
yeah, there are platforms out there that are free, like not outside of my
Quite a few
organization.
competitors.
There are.
There are probably 5 or 6 major platforms. They differ in terms of the way they're built, their architecture, how they interact with the internet, how many other gadgets they're compatible with. So it's one of those things where we would have to investigate each and every one of them carefully. I know there are 2 favorites out of the box that are well-known, Zoom and WebEx, are the 2. And a number of your colleague boards are experimenting this week with it. It seems like the success has been with really small towns and 3-member boards, having these informal meetings on the phone with, some hapless town administrator sitting there in an unheated building with the phone, with the camera, and just, kind of interacting in a sort of bland way with the phone, but they're getting their work done. I think we're trying to do something a little bit more personal and transparent. This body language is such an important part of how human beings cooperate. So we really want a platform that would show people's faces and mannerisms as they're reacting to information they're getting, so the public feels like they're actually at the meeting and not just hearing a voice. The other thing is you want a platform where people don't speak over each other, because we've had enough of that between the major political party debates and daily talk radio. Almost nothing gets actually conveyed because nobody can hear each other. if you can't see each other on the phone, it's kind of like radio, right? You can't see each other, you don't know the other person wants to speak, and it just becomes very difficult to run.
I can say all of the
But
platforms.
I don't want to waste time investigating it if the board doesn't want to do it at all.
All the platforms that are out there, including the one from my organization, all require a thin client if you're going to put it on your phone. So
Tell me what a thin client is.
Yeah.
it's an app.
You just ruled out this side of the
Yeah,
table.
exactly. Yeah, Hal and I looked at each other.
Yeah, it's an app. So you go to the app store, download it, and
Yeah.
it's there.
It's a backhanded slap somewhere.
So, but I can provide more information on what all the different platforms are, and I'm more than happy to distribute that out to the board. Not just from, I work for Avaya, so it's not just our platform, but Cisco's WebEx and Zoom, and Microsoft has a Teams platform that does it. And so it's not bleeding edge technology. It's been around for a while. So, and everybody kind of has their own little twist.
I
on
guess
how
my
they do it.
position softens somewhat to the point of if we're going to limit it to the duration of this particular emergency, and I think Hal's idea of revisiting it at a set time, I think those are probably sufficient safeguards. It's hard to imagine going to town meeting and you talk about people talking over each other. Well, they do it in person too, right? I mean, that's not limited to technology. I'm thinking of the old game show Hollywood Squares there. But on the other hand, I mean, think of a contentious, I know I dated myself.
Who's
Think
the
of
guy
it,
always in the middle?
who was it?
Paul Lynn.
Paul Lynn, very good, excellent. Think of a contentious town meeting where there's a hot issue to be debated, and think of a room full of 300 people, and then, some of them trying to attend, even a fraction of them trying to attend electronically, and us trying to maintain control over that. The phrase herding cats comes to mind. I just think even with the best technology and deference to the chairman, I just don't know if it's doable.
So under this, if we were to move forward with Selectmen, Board of Health, Water, Sewer, School, by default, all committees, and then turn town meeting also needs to,
No, town meeting is its own creature.
all right, so let's pull that to the side. No
So,
one
but
likes that idea.
The Board of Selectmen, this is one of your unique powers. If you adopt remote participation, it will apply to every board and committee in town.
Yeah.
Whether it's elected or appointed. That is, they can't do it, only you can do it.
Yeah. I think when this issue first came up, I was chairman, and we had talked about it, and we rightfully pushed it to the side. I did write in my notes here, and it's consistent with what I've heard tonight, is that if we were to put a limit towards this policy for the duration of this emergency, I put 8/20, August 20, 2020, as the potential date for us to revisit it. I'm okay with putting it in the toolbox. I don't know if I necessarily want to use that tool.
I'm just going to bring to your attention, that's 5 months, honest.
4.5.
What did our president say? Did he say June, July, August?
The most interesting selectman said 3 months, I think.
3 months.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's do 3 months. The shorter, the better.
I was just pointing it out. I'm not arguing for 3 or 5. I just,
Yeah.
3 months will give us a chance to catch our breath and see what's going on, how it works out.
If we can make a believer out of Cortez over there,
you never know.
our resident skeptic.
I'm susceptible to argument, Mr. Chairman.
You're prone to argument. All right, so would anybody like to make a motion regarding the adoption of a remote policy for the 3-month duration?
So moved.
Second.
I would just add in contingent upon the state of emergency declared by Governor Baker.
So moved again, then.
It's that state of emergency, how long is that going to last?
I don't think
It's indefinite.
indefinite. I don't think
Yeah.
there's any hard answer to that now. I don't know if I worded it correctly. I would say coterminous with the state of emergency declared by Governor Baker.
Whichever is sooner. Is that what you're trying to say? The end of the state of the emergency or 3 months, whichever arrives sooner.
Well, as I understood it, the 3 months was going to be our check-in date to look at it. I think that the policy would only apply, that was my understanding of the discussion, tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
The policy would only apply during the duration of the state of emergency as declared by our governor.
So that would be, again, what Matt just said, whatever is earlier. If the state of
I
emergency.
see two, the revisit comes at a date certain, the policy only applies during
Right.
the state of
so
emergency.
If the emergency ends before the 3 months, you won't revisit the policy because the
No,
policy's
no,
ended.
exactly, it won't be in place.
If the state of emergency is still in place at 3 months, you're going to revisit it.
That's very well said.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what,
Makes sense.
So I'll second that amendment.
this would be really hard to do on the phone.
Yeah.
You're proving my point.
Because you could hit mute and be like, what the?
What did he just say?
All right, so the motion has been multiply made and seconded and amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right. More fun stuff. Emergency appropriation authorization under Mass General Law 44, Chapter 31, and an emergency declaration and possible votes.
Mr. Chairman, this afternoon I endeavored to combine agenda items 6 and 7 into a document referred to as a local emergency declaration that would address emergency appropriations under Chapter 44, as well as the personnel policies of the town, all in one document. The notion of a declaration of a local emergency is not really a pathway there in the statutes. It's a convention that has been used already by quite a few towns. There's a couple of things about it. One is it makes our Emergency Operations Center official. So the local governing body has determined that there is an emergency, therefore we will fire up the EOC and do things the EOC does with that top cover in place, that the local elected officials have agreed that there is an emergency. And typically, when the federal government looks after an event to provide reimbursements to municipalities and to states, the existence of an EOC with a properly documented series of decisions and appropriations is where the starting point is for your reimbursement filing. So while there is no hard answer to the fact that, do you have to have a declaration of emergency to get reimbursed by FEMA or to operate your EOC, there isn't a hard and fast answer to that. It's just that this is belt and suspenders.
Right.
You're pulling it all together, and many communities have decided to do that in the last week and are planning to do that in the next couple of nights. I took the liberty of taking Administrator Brindisi's proposed declaration from the town of Upton, and I added a lot of Douglas content to it to make it more specific to the situation of this town. And then I added the whole operative section in the back, because I think this has to be more than just a, hey, things are bad, so everybody go run off and do your thing. We might as well, things are bad, and there's a bunch of things we'll do well, things are bad, and if that state of emergency goes away, then those powers will go away, as are understood. When the major law firms that do municipal work and our own town council was circulating memos about emergency powers. Well, it was sort of a carte blanche authorization by a majority vote of a board of selectmen would allow a town administrator or the department heads of a town to spend above and beyond their appropriation. My personal view is that's not appropriate, that authorization should come with a limit, and the documentation requirements, even though they're in Chapter 44, Section 31, should still be more explicit, that, it should be understood that if we go above and beyond what you've authorized, that we would have to do that on a written finding with your approval, because this is not the budget. This is spending money that has yet to be appropriated by town meeting. So to me, that's only something that an elected group of people should do, not an appointed town administrator. You should give me the authority to spend up to a certain amount, because you don't want to be here every 2 nights as we go through this.
Right.
But there should be checkpoints. So that's what the operative clauses 1 and 2 do. They set the limit at 50,000, and then if we go above that 50,000, that's okay, but we have to come back and get your approval at a public meeting, whatever form that public meeting takes. The third operative clause suggests that we close the common areas and public access to the municipal center. I will be perfectly honest, I don't see it, okay? But I'm following the overall guidance of state and federal authorities and the policy choices that have been made by many sister communities to close their town halls. We would still have the ability to transact business with the public. It would just be a little bit more impersonal. We have the lockbox out front. So if anything that needs to arrive in hard copy and be processed either as a payment or as an application can still be gathered and sorted and routed, because we're not going to send people home. So town hall staff will still come in and work every day and do their job here for the foreseeable future, under operative clause number 3. The only thing we would do is post signs at the doors, and we would lock the doors using our electronic locking system, and you had to have a fob to get in. But everybody who works here, or elected officials, their fobs would be active. I don't feel like the town administrator's authority extends to the point of closing the municipal center. That's your bailiwick, that's your decision to make. I'm looking for the authority to do that beginning Thursday. Operative clause number 4 is that if we arrive at, would we never get there, but if we arrive at an extreme situation where people are really getting nervous now because for some reason this plateau we're experiencing right now all of a sudden goes back to a spike again, and people want to stay home because they're very nervous, we have established the ability for our employees to work from home by accessing their computer at work through their keyboard and their screen at home. Basically, they're seeing their work computer at home, and their personal computer doesn't record that data. They have a wicked long-range keyboard, and they're interacting with the computer that they know they have here. And that was a much more cost-effective way to accomplish this. If we got everybody a laptop or a tablet, it would have cost an awful lot of money, and it wouldn't have really changed the outcome of what we're trying to do here. But I think that what you could do, the recommendation is that you give me the authority to make that decision based on a written finding of fact. In other words, okay, we've got a bunch of more orders from the governor about whether we should even be in the building or not. So I don't like the term essential staff. I just hate that, because this town has already pared its staff back to the point where everybody who's here has a role to play. But there may be people who can get just as much work done from home under these conditions as they could have here. They'll be less accessible to the public. The other dynamic here in this operative clause is that we would like to authorize, well, actually, it's both item 3 and item 4. We need a mechanism in place for the town administrator, or if I can't come in, if I'm sick, or one of my million kids is sick, or whatever reason I'm not here, and Chief Miglianico is the interim administrator, or in his absence as well, the emergency management director, Chief Vincent, would have the authority to reassign staff. So, and within the ICS framework, if the EOC is running at full tilt and we start to build a financial operation for recording appropriations, and the planning function and the ops function, if we have to do all those things, we would look to our existing staff to backfill, to leave their day job behind and come actually work at the EOC. Again, I think that this is more clear case where the town administrator already has that authority, but I would prefer that it come from you because it's a significant change. What does 4A mean? 4A means the inclement weather policy, which is what most people think of it as, is also the emergency policy of the town. A lot of the verbiage there is about, well, what happens when it snows and you close the building and people can't come in. But there's always the catch-all at the end of each one of those phrases. It's any emergency that the town faces. Just so folks understand that when we close the building and we send our workers home involuntarily, the policy of the town up to this point, in your written policies, has always been that they would be paid. I'm altering that because they can work from home, my expectation is that they will work, and they're just drawing a paycheck for getting their work done from a different location. They would be held to the same standards for making sure their work gets done, and that it's not a vacation. All right? Operative clause number 5 is one of my personal sort of pet peeves. When we're in situations like this, just because somebody sticks a camera in your face doesn't mean you all of a sudden decide to tell everything that you think you know about what's going on. Once we have an emergency operations center established, which we do, it was stood up 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday, that's it. That's the source of information. All the information that comes in gets recorded. I've erased a lot of the stuff or flipped the board over so it's not visible. But it all comes to this one location, and the determination is made between the public safety chiefs and myself and Deputy Chief Furno and anybody who's in the room, what the talking points are, what do we actually know, what facts have we verified, and that's the official word of the town. We establish an emergency management Facebook presence in order to push that message out, in addition to all the other places that we push messages out. I just want to reiterate to people, if you decide you're going to spill the beans, if something's going on, you'd be disciplined, and if the situation's egregious enough, that discipline would include termination of employment. I don't think we'll ever get there, but I just want to make it clear to people that, don't put, I don't even need to give you an example. I think you know what I'm talking about. And then lastly, is the term, the policies would be in effect until altered or terminated by the Board of Selectmen, or until a governor ends the state of emergency, whichever occurs first. So we can put these in place. And I didn't get into any of the other issues because they were separate and apart.
I was trying to think of activities that would require somebody's present. I thought of registering to vote. How would that be handled?
The registrars, the Board of Registrars meet regularly, and they come into the town clerk's office at differing periods. My wife is one of the registrars, and they're there and they're available. The times are published for anyone coming in to register.
So that might be an exception that we'd have some.
We could do that exception. I think registering to vote now has gotten a whole heck of a lot easier.
But
Can do it online.
You can do it online.
I don't know I think we're required, I'm not sure.
You need to eyeball the person the first time.
Right.
When I changed my party affiliation, I did it online.
yeah, that's a little different.
But
Yes,
I'm
'cause
going
you
more
were-
towards
you
what Mr.
already-
Wojcik said, right. I think the first time there may be a requirement, and I'm not sure if there's a requirement that the registers be here and be available for X amount of hours.
We'll have to look
Isn't
into
it just
that.
Right.
usually the town clerk? You can register at the town
He
clerk?
can.
Lost, is this if we close the,
So
is this if we close the building?
it gives the discretion to the town administrator to close the town hall if need be.
Right, no, I understand that. I just wonder if there's a way that we could limit the amount of public in the building by keeping the door locked and then setting up lanes or something in the parking lot where people can run out
We
and
would
see what
need
they're
some
there
kind
for.
of gatekeeper.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just
it's-
see that it's we're open or we're closed. That's a friggin' nightmare. We're short-staffed in here and run on a thin crew as it is. I'm not going to ask anyone to delegate to become a traffic cop outside for inbound, outbound parties.
Well,
No
each department-
disrespect.
Remember, my knee-jerk reaction or my predilection here is that we're not going to go to this. That
No.
if we get to the point where we only have a skeleton crew here and we're not performing the normal functions, things would have to be pretty bad.
None of it matters.
Yeah. But I think if the decision gets
Constitutional rights
made,
notwithstanding.
if the decision gets made that, under the advisement of the state or whatever it is that turns in, and we have a large uptick of cases here in Douglas, and it's decided that it's best the town hall is closed, then town hall is closed.
This is a permanent policy that would apply to future emergencies too, correct, or just this one?
Just this one, so it's a declaration unique to this state of emergency.
I guess I don't have as much heartache investing Mr. Wojcik with the power to do that if things, I don't believe they will, but if they will suddenly take a drastic and quick turn for the worst. I think the same issue here is getting a hold of all of us or dragging us back in to approve this, particularly if things get bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, as this is proving to be on the news, this is a pretty fluid situation that's going through. We need to be giving him the opportunity to work quickly.
I certainly don't object.
Yeah, I don't either.
So, and this wouldn't require 3 readings, this is a one and done.
No, it's a state of emergency. You do it, and it's policy.
Are we going to
Did you hear that,
combine this
Suzanne?
with the?
I already knew it.
Number 6? I know that was your intention.
Yeah, so the personnel stuff is in this.
Right.
So the reference to the inclement weather emergency policy would have been a separate discussion under the agenda, but it is not efficient
Okay. What do you need a motion for then?
to approve this.
And then I'd need to read it in, right? Yes, no?
If you want to be formal about it, yeah.
Of course you
You're not very.
Well, yeah, I'm not
I just
the one
wanna hear
reading
you
it
say
in.
whereas like 10 times.
I've done it before with Ice Cream Day. Which was far more
like that
fun.
same day,
More
just-
important, too.
So,
Ice cream day.
want to take a vote on it and I'll read it in, or do you want me to read it in and then we'll vote?
That was my thought when you said that, but you're the chairman. I certainly accede to whichever you choose to
Defer
do.
to you.
Right.
I will read it in. How's that? So it's a declaration of local state of emergency for COVID-19. Whereas the 2019 coronavirus causes COVID-19, a highly contagious and potentially serious respiratory disease with disproportionate impact on medically challenged, vulnerable populations. And whereas there are communities worldwide which have struggled to maintain access to and the quality of health care for those most severely affected by COVID-19 due to the numbers of people who have become seriously ill. And whereas on March 10th, 2020, the Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts issued a declaration of a state of emergency to respond to COVID-19, and whereas on March 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization designated the COVID-19 outbreaks a pandemic health emergency, and whereas on March 13th, 2020, the President of the United States declared a national state of emergency to respond to the spread of COVID-19. And whereas on March 15, 2020, the Governor announced specific actions to respond to the evolving COVID-19 public health emergency, including prohibitions on public gatherings of 25 or more people and suspension of elementary and secondary school education operations from March 17, 2020 until April 6, 2020. And whereas the Douglas Board of Selectmen and Board of Health, in consultation with the State Department of Health, have determined that the spread of COVID-19 poses an immediate threat to public health, safety, and general welfare of people residing both within and outside the town of Douglas. And whereas the Douglas Board of Selectmen and its Board of Health have determined to immediate public action is needed in order to prevent or minimize the spread of COVID-19 by and among the people of Douglas. And whereas it is critical to take additional steps to prepare for, respond to, and mitigate the spread of COVID-19 to protect the health and welfare of the people of Douglas, and whereas the town administrator and emergency management director have recommended that a state of emergency be declared in the town of Douglas. Now therefore, we, the Board of Selectmen of the town of Douglas, Massachusetts, hereby declare that as of 8 p.m. on March 17, 2020, a local state of emergency exists in the town of Douglas, and the following actions are hereby directed and authorized. The town administrator or his designee is hereby authorized to approve emergency expenditures pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 31, in an amount not to exceed $50,000 over and above the total amount appropriated in the fiscal year 2020 town budget. Said funds shall be appropriated from such sources or amortized in future fiscal years pursuant to requirements and authority established by the Commonwealth and approved by this Board of Selectmen and/or town meeting as the law requires. The town administrator or his designee may request additional funds over the $50,000 authorized above in writing and with supporting finding facts in which the board shall consider such request at a posted public meeting. The common areas and public spaces of the municipal center shall be closed to the public effective 12 a.m. Thursday, March 19, 2020. Staff shall be required to report to work and perform their regular duties or related duties based upon the skills and experience of each employee as required for COVID-19. Response and assigned to individual staff members by the administrator, any interim administrator in his absence, or the emergency management director in the absence of both those people. While the municipal center is closed to the public, the following shall occur. Signs shall be posted at every door on all electric message boards of the town noting the closure. The municipal center shall be locked with access only by electronic key. Upon a written finding of necessity filed with the board, the town administrator is hereby authorized further to restrict staff attendance in town hall under the following terms. The emergency policy at section 4.8 of the personnel policies procedures of the town of Douglas shall be in effect. The town administrator is authorized to reduce the number of staff allowed access to the building to maintain compliance with federal and state directives regarding group activity, to allow staff who may be a member of a vulnerable population to stay out of work, and generally to reduce the possibility of the spread of the coronavirus. Staff members who are not required to report to the office under subsection B above shall perform their regular duties, and such duties are assigned to them from home, and all workplace norms around job performance shall still apply. The Douglas Emergency Operations Center, in operation since 9 a.m. Monday, March 16, 2020, shall be the sole authorized public voice of the town's response to the COVID-19 emergency. Any town employee who shares response-related information or comments on the emergency without the prior specific authorization of the EOC shall be subject to discipline up to and including termination of their employment. These policies shall be in effect until altered by the Board of Selectmen or until the governor ends the state of emergency, whichever should occur first.
Excellent job.
Thanks.
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Y'all have to sign it.
All right.
It's a historic document there, Mr. Hughes.
It's big stuff. So that brings us to the town administrator's contract and possible vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'd suggest we pass over that for a number of reasons, mostly related to the issues we're discussing tonight.
Yeah.
The ad hoc committee has not had a chance to meet yet.
Okay.
I believe we're going to try to meet prior to our next meeting.
Yeah.
But if we could pass this over at least until the next meeting.
Okay. So just keep me posted on when you guys do get a meeting put together.
Will do.
I think we could
Don't run
probably,
off to Woonsocket in the meantime.
can we just
Oh,
set,
that's such a great place to be right now.
can we just set that now so we don't have to, so
We
the
were
the
talking
deadline?
prior to the next
Yeah.
meeting of April 7th.
So
Does that
6
work?
o'clock on April 7th, Suzanne, if we could
Yes, I
post
will
that?
post
Don't
it.
touch it.
All
Thank
right,
you.
there you go.
Nothing personal.
I'm offended. No, I'm kind of hurt by that.
Right.
but It's okay.
It works for me.
All right, what was the date again? I'm sorry, guys.
6 o'clock on April 7th.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you guys will be meeting here?
Yep.
Okay.
It's a question on the building being closed. The Board of Health holds a meeting. Members of the public anxious about what's going on, wants to come and ask their board questions. The building's closed. How are we handling that?
Until this board passes a remote participation proviso, we'd open the building for the duration of that meeting.
25 people pack a room? Is there any sort of guidance there that we want to
Better
follow?
off, and I've advised the school committee chair, we've also advised the Board of Health to meet in this room. It offers the greatest possibility for social distancing, and the cameras and sound in here are pretty good, so.
Point of order, we did pass the remote participation.
Well, you did, but until we have the technology in
Yeah.
place.
Oh, okay.
That should be soon forthcoming, I would assume.
You don't have to raise a point of order to interrupt me. You can stop me at any point.
I'm just trying.
Me or the chairman.
I'm trying to be polite.
It's
That was polite.
Yeah.
Brad Argel, school committee chair. Are we going to restrict the room to 25 people or more, or is it use your best judgment?
Or 25 or
rather.
less.
I guess under the town's own proclamation, I didn't hear anything that did that, but,
I would recommend that it would be restricted to 25.
okay, just That was
If we
my-
limit it to 25, we may be limiting ourselves a little bit. You may see a superseding order with less than 25.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we want to get,
Consistent with state law? or-
well, consistent with whatever the emergency order we're operating under is, whether, because what if it's less than 25?
Part of it is that most of us are not in the habit of having 25 people come to any.
Yeah, I know.
meeting.
There's
So other
that.
than
Just
the
wait for that.
override
That's usually one
conversation.
time when, I get 40 show up. I'm like,
Yeah. For us, this is crowded.
Yeah, trust me, I know. And, part of me says, I hope it is business as usual, but, the other part of me is like, okay, people need information, and we want to be able to provide it.
And that's why I think it's important, we'll have to explore this platform very quickly, because technically, the Open Meetings Act, regardless of any version of it or partial suspension of it, it's not a public meeting if any member of the public is turned away. Regardless of whether there's an attendance limit or not, would have to be an alternative way for them to, so they can get a live, we might do more live meetings through the cable,
Yeah.
because most of the time they're taped and rebroadcast. The Board of Selectmen, in my understanding, is primarily the live body, but the live channel is there, so you could occupy that space and have a live meeting, accept phone calls. But as a committee, you should work out what works best for you to accept members of the public who want to participate above the threshold level.
The question, are we live right now on YouTube?
You're
I
on-
believe we're only live on the cable station right now.
Right.
On YouTube. YouTube will be later.
Okay.
He
Thank you.
he downloads the video onto YouTube like around Thursday.
Yeah. So, I guess it's, as it stands now, if you don't have cable, we may be in compliance, but technically, are we? Because they don't have cable to access the public access.
Does the website support multimedia?
Ooh, good question.
Because if it does, you can live stream to the website. It's not hard to do.
I don't know.
You still need the internet, so.
Yeah.
Internet or cable, you probably have, you might have one or the other.
But
That
digitally,
might increase the reach, that's correct.
Yeah.
It might increase the reach. There might be a Facebook way to do it, too.
You
But
can
not
do
everyone's on
Facebook Live.
but not everyone's on Facebook.
I'm not a lawyer, but you're making every reasonable effort to try and get it to the public,
Yeah, I mean,
so.
that's kind of the best we can do. There's always going to be a rate limiting step. I mean, I know there are people who don't come to these meetings because they can't see at night.
Yeah. All right.
We good there?
Yes.
All right. Good energy aggregation bid day representative and possible vote.
I'll honestly admit, this is the first time I've seen it.
I did it,
But
I did it the
but
last one.
I know what it is. This is not a procurement, just so everybody knows. The towns got together through the spread to do this, and there's quite a few towns participating, but it is not a municipal procurement. We buy our energy through our existing long-term contract with Hudson Energy. That was negotiated through Tradition, and as you know, we went to town meeting to make that a 5-year long lead contract. This is the aggregation for our residents, and this will be put out to bid. My personal view is this is a great deal for our residents. We can't offer them the municipal rate because that's not how it works. Sometimes folks have a hard time understanding this, but the month-to-month cost of electricity, or there are a variety of different tariffs filed by National Grid. Some of them are fixed rate for a long time, or you can get a floating rate that floats by month and go up or down based on market conditions. It's usually established in the tariff rate filing. And the cost of electricity can get very high in the winter because our plants are fired with natural gas, and priority one for natural gas is home heating. So all of the home heating demand gets met, and whatever's left over is available for electricity generation. It can come into short supply. You see trucks driving around with natural gas. They might be on their way to a power plant to offload that at really high cost, and that increases the cost of electricity during the winter. The aggregation is such a large group of people purchasing that it drives, the bargaining power drives the price down. And it locks in the price over a longer period of time. So it stays flat while the National Grid tariffs will go up and down over it. If you track this closely, over time, the aggregation program has saved ratepayers in the town of Douglas a pretty decent amount of money because it's consistently lower than the National Grid tariff. The group is pretty solid. You know, during this past year, you may recall that we had some litigation because the low bidder last time basically messed up. They didn't do their math correctly, and they realized they had a really significant error that allowed them to be the low bidder, because they miscalculated the impact of solar credits. And so we ended up in a compromise, but what I was happy to see was that the group was willing to file a lawsuit and band together and fight for the ratepayers, which almost never happens. Because if you want a boring meeting with nobody in the audience, go to a public utilities meeting, talk about energy tariffs. So that's what this is about, just explaining the agenda item. You can designate almost anybody to sign this or read it. If you want to do it again, feel free.
Well, I was just going to ask when the unveiling is this time.
It says April, the bid will go out, this item 9,
April 21st.
April 21st.
It's the largest one in the
Looks like
state.
you said Jim Purcell on it last time?
Yep.
And I accompanied Mr. Gazinski, I think, the time before
Time
that.
before that.
Would you be interested in doing it again?
I actually am busy on the 21st, so I'm not able to.
Don't look at
Where it's kind of a regional issue, I don't know if Mr. Bowman would be able to have any expertise.
It's part of planning.
It is.
Actually, that's a very good
You know what? If it saves
I
the
knew you'd
tax,
agree.
if it saves the ratepayers money, I will go.
Good.
I will go. I do believe in this. Just a quick aside, I got off this and went with my own little thing, and it worked great for 3 months, and then I was regretting it, so I hopped on board as quick as I could. So,
You
Do you have time in your schedule to do that, Tim, to be a delegate?
as of right now, absolutely.
Are you going to be the primary?
Oh,
They
Yes,
want a
yes.
primary, they want an alternate.
all right, I'll
Can you just spell
primary.
Bonin differently on the alternate?
Reverse it.
Exactly.
One end and then two ends?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing.
If an alternate's needed, I can do the alternate.
Do we need a representative there?
Do both have to be present, or just the primary?
No, I think just the
Just
primary.
the primary.
I think
So if you
need to
can't
send
make it, let me
somebody.
know, and I'll clear my schedule.
Okay.
I'm here every day, you could always send me if you make me excited.
We have much better things for you to be
So
doing.
I will need
So
you
we'll-
to sign that, please, and then I will take care
Oh,
of it.
you guys, I
Here he
tell
wins
you.
another one.
Just the signature, I'll fill in everything if you want.
So
Are they
There
fresh?
were snacks.
as I run the agenda, I wanted to kind of bounce around a little bit, because I've been sitting there thinking about, we've gone into a state of emergency in the town. We put emergency provisions forth for public meeting, and I would now be the appropriate time to say it would probably make sense to delay town meeting.
There's legislation, I think, forthcoming. I think the governor filed a package with the legislature, which would relieve us of our duties under the law as far as that goes. I don't know, has it gone anywhere? Do you know?
It's going to be discussed quickly. There's broad sweeping changes in that. So right now, I guess the law is that you may put it off for up to 30 days at the request of the town moderator. And in my book, an email doesn't do it. We would need Mr. Menard to pen something a little bit more formal than that to ask the selectmen to push that off. I think the bigger issue, frankly, is the election. Deciding what's going to happen with that. Because, you know, it may not be a good idea to have all those people congregating if you're following the logic of the social distancing.
How would we go about, it's just a local election that we're holding, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So we
Right,
could,
but
vote-
you-
Is that 30 days too? You could
You
put that,
can't, no, that's different. That requires a statutory change. You don't have a lot of authority there. You have to have the election until somebody tells you.
well, all
You
right.
either
yeah.
get a court injunction or,
Is that included in the package that the legislature's considering? It is.
all right, so
No,
we'll-
just-
And that, but I'm saying, would that provision be 30 days too, under that? Oh, the 30 days is you can do
Just
right
tell
now.
me.
That
It's
can
an
do,
extension of the dates, you go
Okay.
from May 4th through whatever, June.
and that can be done under existing legislation, right? Okay,
but that has to be initiated by
Right.
the town moderator.
yeah.
He started that process. He inquired.
Okay.
via email to ask what the process would be, but he hasn't officially said, I really think we should. Now, bottom line is this, if we can't really get back to normal here within 2 or 3 weeks, we're gonna have to, because there's all this work that we do up before town meeting to make town meeting happen.
Yeah.
Finalizing the warrant and passing a budget. To me, the budget is done, but Finance Committee has a lot of deliberation to do. This board has deliberation to do before they can get it. And, the way this would, under the governor's package or whoever's package it is, we could use a month-to-month budget under the existing fiscal levels of appropriation.
1/12.
And put off town meeting and not have to have a budget until everybody's ready to rock and roll. You can do all the public notice and everything associated with a proper town meeting.
Is Gene's stomach turning back there? Or?
Well, I mean, the emergency spending is one thing. I mean, the town of Douglas is fortunate it has certified free cash, because that's a source for emergency spending and a funding source for emergency spending that not every town will necessarily have.
Okay.
So all this stuff has to be worked out.
So that'll just be a future,
Yeah.
probably next meeting agenda item.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually going to have to be your next meeting. It's going to
Yeah.
have to be decided.
Okay.
Hopefully the
We'll see what's going
legislature.
on,
right.
legislation, and see
All
what's
right.
going on with the virus all by that time.
I just wanted to make sure if we had the chance to get ahead of it, we'll at least start.
We're thinking about it.
All right. So bylaw change. Number of marijuana licenses allowed and possible votes, which we had brought up in a previous meeting, where I felt that the 3 that we had was insufficient.
Insufficient.
And I can't remember if we had looked at increasing to 5 or 7. Thought it was 5.
I thought it was fine.
It's the 5 rings a bell, yeah.
Does that accommodate all the ones?
It gives us a little breathing room. Currently, we have 3 community host agreements that are out there now for recreational, which would saturate all 3 licenses that we have at our disposal. And I would like to have at least 2 more in our pocket in the event that a lucrative opportunity arises, that we have that flexibility.
Knocking on our doorstep.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea.
You do.
Anybody want to make a motion on it?
I move that we increase the number of licenses from 3 to 5.
Second?
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So we're preparing a warrant article for a general bylaw amendment that will change the number 3 to the number 5, section B of section 9.
That would be the only change, just the number.
Okay.
Okay.
Review the warrant. Yay. Unless you'd like to pass over that.
Pass.
You do? We can.
This is
Matt
just,
doesn't
this
agree
is
to
just
it.
basically giving you an idea of what's
Yeah,
on there
it's
right
pretty
now.
routine.
It is. Are there any questions about the different things that are in here?
Number 12, the zoning bylaw change, ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation. I assume the necessary boards have, or are taking that up?
It is, because it was presented by them. All the zoning bylaws are presented by the zoning
So
board.
there's no citizen petitions
Planning
or
board.
anything?
I'm sorry?
Planning board passed
Yeah.
this along.
Right.
And asked for this to be in here.
That's fine. I just want to make certain that it's through the structure of government and not a by petition or citizens article.
Usually if it is a petition article, I put it in there.
Excuse me.
You do?
Yep. We've had one in the past.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions
This
on
is a
this?
little bit scaled back. And the original conversation was around a moratorium. But that's gone, I don't see the word moratorium here, and they're just changing it. The residentially zoned areas. We'd had some conversation about making sure that they don't get in the way of municipal fields being built. And I was assured by a member of the planning board that that's not the intent, that municipal uses are allowed in all zones, and that the existing zoning chart would keep the town out of any hot water here. We don't really want to consider none of the fields we consider building are in heavily populated residential areas.
Should we explicitly put an exception for the town in here, so there's no ambiguity, so we don't get sued?
I'll
someday?
clarify that with town council, and if there's any vagueness around your prerogatives as a board, we can prepare either an amendment or, before the warrant is finally closed, see if the planning board would change its view. My understanding, though, is that some of this was done with the eye not to get in the way of the board of selectmen on that issue.
Any other questions from anyone on this? All right.
No, it's good.
Approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the meeting minutes from February 18th, 2020.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
How about the executive session
Well,
minutes?
actually,
March.
I'll also move that we approve the meeting minutes from March 3rd, 2020.
Second.
Made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Then we have the executive session minutes from February 4th, 2020. I move that we approve and retain.
Second.
I'm sorry, who made the second?
Dave?
All right, made and seconded, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye. And then finally, the February 18th, 2020 executive session minutes. We approve and again retain.
I'll second.
There you go. Made and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Your report, Mr. Administrator.
Mr. Chairman, just an update on a couple of these items in the warrant. One of them is a capital improvement plan. Out years were approved by the capital improvement committee last year, based on the information they had at the time. We've had some difficulty getting a quorum, so this isn't done yet. And under the current circumstance, it might be less than easy to get it done, but it has to get done, because we need to make a couple of amendments here, because a couple of the projects are more expensive than we had previously estimated for this conversation. So that work needs to be done. In terms of the budget, prior to all this COVID-19 activity, the budget was pretty much driving towards its natural conclusion, which would be to have a final round of department presentations in front of this board, some conversation, and then the presentation of a final budget, both to you and to the Finance Committee. We're still, depending on how all of this pans out, we're still very much on track to turn a budget around quickly, because a lot of the deliberation has occurred. As you know, the budget doesn't change much. At the moment, the budget includes all of the up-to-date information on Norfolk Aggie, the school bus contract, Blackstone Valley Tech, and all of our municipal departments. A very favorable renewal on health insurance, which came in at 2%, which is less than the 2.5% that I told you it might come in at. It's actually at 2%. And a 2% year-over-year increase for the local share of the school budget, a 2%. And if all of those assumptions play out in the spreadsheet, there's a resulting budget surplus. I got some last-minute polishing to do on some numbers. I don't want to give you a precise figure. It is greater than $250,000. That's probably a good thing, given the situation we're in right now. with the whole COVID thing. So if it continues to go on, rather than doing an emergency appropriations, we would probably think about, have to work out with Gene and with legal counsel how we characterize, allocate that surplus towards emergency. Maybe it's in the form of a reserve fund, increasing the reserve fund at Finance Committee. It all depends who you want to have control of it. The alternative, of course, would be to supplement Chapter 90. Another alternative would be to tackle more of the forestry issues we have. So it's a very small amount of money, but and of course, I'm sure the school committee will ask for it too. So there'll be lots of interest, but I'd much rather be in this. This is a problem you like to have, not something that you want to worry about too much. And before anybody gets too snarky, the other alternative is to lower your year-over-year increase on the levy. There's a danger to that because it fiddles with the out-year projections when things get leaner as the budget grows and as costs increase. So that's where we are with the budget. So the work has been ongoing. We've had a lot of good conversations with department heads. There are no major changes. We've got probably a couple of code-related issues for building inspection. Yeah. COVID-19, where are we exactly? As of 4 o'clock this afternoon, across the Commonwealth, there are 218 confirmed cases. Worcester County is home to 8 of those. A human interest fact is that about 102 of the confirmed cases are stemming from the Biogen conference and contacts with those households, the people that attended that conference. And local transmission is assigned 33 cases. So,
Excuse me, do you know how many tests were done in Massachusetts?
yes.
Yeah?
So in the beginning of the testing regimen, you had to practically be the walking dead to get a
Right.
test. So you were pretty much going to get, I'm not making light of it, you had to
Right.
be very sick and have a lot of symptoms and be, really in that target zone. So the state public health laboratory, as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, has done 1,367 tests, of which 197 were positive. There are some 8 that the CDC did prior to 2/28 that were also positive. More recently, with the private labs coming online and the testing population is much more diverse.
Right.
LabCorp has done 164 tests. They have 1 positive. Quest has done 220 tests, and they have 12 positives. And this lab data is cumulative and current as of 10 o'clock this morning. So as we test more and more people, the percentage that comes back positive is dropping.
That secondary group, did they have any symptoms, those people, or it must have to get?
It doesn't say. Now, presumably, a medical clinician has recommended that these individuals be tested. It's still required. You don't have to get clearance from any higher authority. The clinician can order the test, but you don't have the opportunity to walk into urgent care and say,
Right.
I'm pretty sick, can you give me one of
Yeah,
them
it's
tests?
got to be a doctor, a
Doctor.
PCP, or,
So with that being the proviso, I wouldn't imagine that people that were asymptomatic would even be getting tested, because they wouldn't be in front of a clinician.
yeah.
I think the
Unless they
takeaway,
had an exposure and they wanted to be tested, they could say, I've been in Italy for the last
Yeah.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
the takeaway from that I get is, as the number of tests go up here in the Commonwealth, the percentage of positive tests go down. Is that correct?
It seems to be the trend.
Right. That would be a good trend.
It's a very good trend. So over the last 2 days, we had 21 new cases today in the Commonwealth. And yesterday, the day-over-day growth was 33. So let's hope, again, knock on wood, that this trend continues because it's a flattening. Conditions in other countries are very, very different, but I still think it's kind of important to note when things go sideways. So just today alone, Italy had 3,500 positives, and they had 300 and some odd deaths. I think I'm going to transcribe the numbers. It's either 345 or 354. It's over 300 people in Italy passed away today from complications of the virus. So they're way different than us for a lot of reasons. So comparisons are not great, but I think one of the things that is interesting and scientifically valid is that the thing is really contagious. About 20% of the people who get it have serious ramifications from it. So in those countries where they weren't able to stop that or get ahead of it, or they don't have the right PPE or the right protocols in place, it starts to metastasize pretty quickly. It's not an arithmetic progression, it's a logarithmic progression. So everybody has had that many more contacts with people. What's in between arithmetic and logarithmic?
That was long ago.
Geometric's in between.
Oh, really?
Thank you.
Wouldn't it?
Showing off. Sorry, I like this.
That's all right.
That's all I have. I mean, obviously, everything we've been working on has been on your agenda earlier tonight. This has been an all-consuming set of activities, trying to make sure government still runs. I think normalcy for people is seeing that the lights are on at Town Hall, and things are, and you get a permit. The inspector may not be able to walk around your house, but is still going to provide you with an inspection and a way to get approvals, all of those things. In my opinion, not to overstate the case, but local government is a source of normalcy. If we keep everything running, it becomes an anchor that people can latch onto, and as we return, we transition back to real life, they won't have to worry that we have to pick up the pieces with their taxpayer funds. We never let the pieces fall down.
Matt, how are the townspeople doing in regards to this social distancing? Have you heard from?
Well, I took a step towards the school committee chairman today. I noticed he took 2 steps back. So he's doing just fine. I don't know. I mean, I'm not observing. We were busy here today. We had a lot of people in this building.
I was surprised at how many were, in the parking lot were active.
I didn't think there were that many.
There was a hum of activity around here.
Yeah,
Maybe
it just seems like there's usually more. It seemed like there was less than normal today for me.
It's a fairly busy town hall on any given day, but we didn't have queues of people waiting for things, so it's kind of hard to say where people were relative to each other.
A good litmus test is, my wife was at Walmart, and when you kind of walk through Walmart and you go near people, they're holding their breath. Like when you walk by and you're like within 6 feet of their personal space, you can see them and wait until you get by. So there are people that are going a little extreme with it, but
Just a bit.
overall, it's one of those better safe than sorry. I did want to take the opportunity first, thank you, Matt, for the hours that you're putting in with the whole COVID-19 thing. Same to both of the public safety chiefs and deputy chief. I'm sure that this is trying on all of your departments, and I'm sure people are stressful, and so I appreciate
The deputy chief only worked 300 hours this last payroll period. Is that about?
What are you slacking, John?
I took 2 hours off.
Taking time off.
There's no room for that, man.
I was going to say, why would you waste those 2 hours?
Was it a quick nap and a cookie, and then off you went?
Yeah.
No, but I appreciate all the hours that you guys are putting in. So, but that's all I have.
Okay.
Do we have any old business?
You're not allowed to do that anymore.
Well, I'm going to do it anyway.
Open meetings problem.
Wasn't that suspended by the governor? You wrote the law again?
Nobody tells me anything. I do what I want. All right, so with all that then,
Turn it over to Tim.
Tim, one of your eloquent motions, please.
All right, I'll make a motion that we move into executive session for the purposes of collective bargaining, and then to leave executive session for the purpose of adjournment.
Second.
Made and seconded, roll call vote.
Bone and I.
Morris. Oh, Morris, aye.
Davis, aye.
Cortez, aye.
Look, I understand that you